Hey everybody, hey YouTube. We are going to jump in here and do a little set review. I'm going to take off this WotC sponsored tag. We're going to do continue our limited set review of the Throne of Eldraine set. It looks like a pretty sweet, dripping with flavor kind of set. If you're a Vorthos, this has got to be one of your favorite sets in a long time. Awesome stuff going on the top-down designs in this set. But we're here about limited. We want to know what cards we should be thinking about in limited and how we should be valuing them. So we're going to do that. And thank you for joining me. We're going to go alphabetically through green now, starting with Beanstalk Giant. It's an uncommon for 6 and a green, and it has a star for power and toughness. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. So it doesn't have evasion, and it costs 7, but it's going to be big, assuming you're casting based on lands. But like a lot of these cards, the value tends to be in the 2-for-1 that is adventure. So the sorcery adventure here is Fertile Footsteps, 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So historically, when it comes to 3-mana ramp, I have said that I really like to be both ramping to something big and fixing. So ideally, you're playing Fertile Footsteps in a deck where it both matters to you that you're getting to 5 on 4 or 6 on 5, but also that you're helping your splash or whatever. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got to the wrong view. Here I am talking and talking and talking. At least I read it out loud. I'm not going to start over it, but I will actually get to the right view now. Sorry about that. Here's this Beanstalk Giant that I'm rambling about. So anyway, in this case, though, the fact that you have this payoff waiting for you, I mean, I'm playing Fertile Footsteps in a lot of decks just based on the fixing and ramp. The fact that it tacks on a huge fatty for 7 mana later seems great. So this is better than most of your 3-mana fixing spells that we have seen previously, like better than... Yeah, this is great. Like we see a lot of 3 mana to ramp and fix, and then there's something else tacked on, whether it's 3 life, counter on a creature, or it's a creature itself, that kind of thing. But I'll take this anytime. This is great. So you all can vote for it how you wish. This is a voting poll on Beanstalk Giant. And I'll advance to the next slide in the meantime. These adventures cards are just, they tend to be straight 2-for-1s, and it's very powerful stuff. Next up is Curious Pair. 1 and a green for another adventure card. It's a 1/3 human peasant. We don't love that, but a 1/3 for 2 can do some blocking if you need to. This is a Hansel and Gretel card. I like the art on it. Nice art, darken. And the sorcery attached is Treats to Share, a single green sorcery for create a food token. 3-mana installment plan for a 1/3 and an artifact that can gain you some life. When is this good? It is good if this format turns out to be super aggressive, especially super aggressive with 2/1s. 1/3s for 2 are at their best when players are trying to get at you with 2/2s and especially 2/1s that you can block early. So that is one thing. It also gets a lot better if you're doing something creative with food tokens besides gaining life. I'm not super impressed with food tokens as 2-mana gain 3, although it's been interestingly relevant. We played a lot yesterday on the preview stream, and that life mattered. There were times where I was eating food to not die and then ended up winning a game, you know, so it does matter on the life gain level. But I think food really takes off in the set when you are doing other things with it, when you're poisoning it and throwing it at stuff, or you're bringing back your bombs from the graveyard, or you're sacrificing artifacts for value, that kind of thing. So that would make it go up. But I think at a baseline, it's just pretty medium as a 1/3 that has a food attached. But you can tell me what you think the voting for Curious Pair is. Yeah, Wizard needed food badly yesterday for sure. Edgewall Innkeeper is a single green for a 1/1 human peasant at uncommon. No adventure here, just a 1/1 for a green. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, draw a card. So we have ourselves an adventure build around. How good is this? Like, I'm sure I haven't listened to the LR Green set review yet, but I'm sure they made this a build around. This is an obvious build around, which is one reason I don't love the ratings. But are we taking this early and building around it? I don't know yet. Drawing a card is obviously super powerful, and there's adventure everywhere. And one thing I like about this is it's not saying whenever you cast an adventure, it's just whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure. So if you are not in a place where you have the time to cast your adventure and then into the creature, if you have Edgewall Innkeeper out, you can at least just cast the creature, and because it has adventure on it, because it has that at all, it's going to give you that card. But as a 1/1 for 1, it's pretty ineffectual as an attacker and a blocker, so it's largely just around as a card drawing engine. But I hope to build around it sometime. It seems like the adventure stuff is so powerful that that this seems completely build aroundable. I mean, when are you happy? I'm happy when I have cast, gosh, at 1 mana, I'm happy basically when I've replaced it. Well, I'm okay when I've replaced it, but I'm happy when I've played 2 creatures with adventure. So I think you can build around this pretty successfully. I think I'd like to try that at some point. I don't think it's bonkers powerful, but it looks like a fun build around. Definitely build around, though. You're going to need... How many adventures do you want? Given that I need 2 to be happy, and given that you see about a third of your deck per game, I'm going to want like 6 or 7 creatures with adventure before I'm happy with the Innkeeper. So that's one way to look at the math of it, right? How many activations before you're happy, and therefore, and how much of your deck do you usually see, and therefore how much of that density do you need in there to be happy? Okay, you can vote on this one, and I'll move on to the next card. Edgewall Innkeeper, what's your vote? Feasting Troll King. Speaking of food payoffs, we had Feasting Troll King in Sealed yesterday, and the king was pretty darn great. Even though we played the king in a in a deck that only had 8 sources of green mana, it was preview sealed. We were pretty loose on preview sealed. But the green is a real cost. So are we pack one picking one this? Probably. It was good enough that I would want to build around it. One thing that I got wrong... Oh, let me read it. Feasting Troll King, 2 green for a 7/6 Troll Noble. It has Vigilance and Trample, and when Feasting Troll King enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, that's the key clause there, create 3 food tokens. Then, sacrifice 3 foods, return Feasting Troll King from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate this ability only during your turn. So... you get to bring it back, but it doesn't make food when you bring it back by sacrificing food because it's coming out of the graveyard. So I initially thought, oh, you just get this infinite loop, but no, of course they didn't allow that to happen. But despite the oppressive mana cost, if you can be heavy green, and this format is really demanding heaviness of color anyway, so it's not even that oppressive to me. It just means you can only play this if you're main green. But this is a format encouraging mono or near mono colored play, so it's actually not that ridiculous to think that you're going to be drafting and casting this. And it's incredibly annoying. Whether it rises to the highest levels of your grading, up to you, I suppose. But we lost to it, and we won with it a lot. And the Vigilance and Trample both go a long way, because you can't just chump endlessly, and you get to attack while defending. Both of those things are very powerful for the card. So give me your votes on Feasting Troll King. And I'll move to the next card. Do we have someone tracking the votes? It would be sad if we were doing all this voting and nobody was tracking it. I was counting on Dionysus. You there, Dionysus? You got me, D? You covering me? You voted for this in the last poll? Oops. Yep, it's 1-7. It seems weird, but it's actually a great. If you're going to do a numerical scale, it's actually got a nice level of granularity, if that makes sense. The resolution on 1 to 7 is at a nice resolution. Okay, Fell the Pheasant. 1 and a green for an instant at common. Deals 5 damage to a target creature with flying. Seems excessive to kill a pheasant, but okay. Create a food token. Oh, we're going to eat the bird. Ah, the flavor. I think one of my favorite parts of this set is how WotC and R&D identified that food is just so ever present in fairy tales. Fairy tales just have food as a mechanism in their storytelling all over the place. So it's totally makes great sense that food is a mechanic in this set. Love that. What do we think about this? Best of 1. Are we going to be main decking this? I think we need the format to shake out a little bit before we understand whether or not we want to main deck Flying Hate in best of 1. Often it is playable, but a little dangerous. And in this case, again, we have the same situation where it's basically like every other flying removal we have ever seen. 2 mana instant to kill a flyer, most flyers. And it's got a rider of the food token. So how much it goes up depends on how much that food token matters to you. But again, even the life gain is solid. But when you do extra cool stuff with food tokens, that's where it gets really crazy. And best of 3, obviously a great sideboard card. So no problems there. Yes, and I like what Buckeye says in terms of running it in sealed. All right, let's vote on Fell the Pheasant here. And I'll take a look. Next card. Fierce Witch Stalker is next. Fierce Witch Stalker is 2 green for a 4/4 at common with trample. So, already love it. Let's see if there's a drawback. Probably not at common. When Fierce Witch Stalker enters the battlefield, create a food token, and you just get a food token. Wow, this is a great common. This is like what you're looking to pick up. I mean, can't run endless 4-drops, and used to be that I would be excited by a 4/4 for 4. Like, just that alone was enough. Creatures have gotten better enough that maybe 4/4 for 4 doesn't cut it anymore. But trample plus food makes this just a solid card to be running in your green decks for sure. You know, it's not necessarily a super high pick, but it's kind of like shaman levels, and like the gorilla shaman from M20. I kind of think of it in that realm in terms of impact. But yeah, this is some green beef. Now vote on this green beef. Yeah, the food, it won't wheel, and how good it is and how highly you should take it probably depends on what you're doing with food tokens. Flaxen Intruder. This art is photorealistically amazeballs. Love the art on this card. And of course, the top-down Goldilocks and the 3 bears, also great. Flaxen Intruder is green for a 1/2 human berserker with adventure. And unfortunately, my love of the card kind of stops here. The baseline 1/2 for 1 gets you this. Whenever Flaxen Intruder deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment. You're not going to be excited about sacrificing your 1/2 for like a food token or something. So it's at best sideboard material, but also like I barely bring in Disenchant, and Disenchant lets me reach out and just destroy the dang thing. Flaxen Intruder, I actually have to like sneak her into damage. That seems bad. Well, let's look at the adventure side though, right? Is that going to save it? Welcome home. 5 green, sorcery, adventure. Create 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens. Very flavorful again, but 7 mana to get 3 2/2s, probably not good enough to warrant like being excited about this card at all. Yes, I can wait before I can wait, Mensch. But in that case, maybe I should just get the voting going now. So you tell me what you think of this card, but I didn't find it very particularly playable, and I was not even interested in like the 2/2 bears in a ramp deck, right? Like at 7 mana, I want to do something better than making 3 2/2s. So I don't think I'm going to be playing much of Flaxen Intruder. But also keep in mind, if this does turn out to be a bum rush format with a lot of 1 toughness creatures, you can justify playing 1 power creatures for 1 just on their defensive merits. So do keep that in mind about the Intruder. Although I think I'm going to make these polls shorter if you want me to wait for them to finish before I move on. Yeah, if you had the Innkeeper, you might play the Flaxen Intruder to extend your adventure count, but yeah. At what cost are we happy with 3 2/2s? 5 would be amazing, and 6 I would be okay with. 7 just crosses a timeline that where you might not even get to 7 mana in some games. Like it's easy to just think 6 7 it's all pretty close. Nah, 6 you can easily hit 6 and never see your 7th mana. You know, that's the kind of thing I worry about. Why is she uncommon? A lot of cards can slot into any spot you want them to within 1. You know, like, so this could be common, it could be uncommon, but honestly, they probably don't want this clogging up common slot in terms of draft, and like they want better cards available at common for draft, and that would be my guess on this one. Or maybe just too much enchantment artifact removal is also not desired. Short answer, so many reasons. Yeah, it's also complicated, so but we've seen this level of complexity on commons, so I don't think that's the only reason, but it's part of it. Yeah, 7 from a design maybe, but yeah. Anyway, Garen Brig Carver. I don't know what's Garen Brig. Is that a place or a thing? I don't know if they're carving Garen Brigs or carving in Garen Brig, but regardless. Oh, Knights of Garen Brig. It's a place. Okay, so he's carving in Garen Brig. And we have here a 3 and a green for a 3/2 human warrior. It has adventure, but obviously we're underwhelmed with the body, but it doesn't matter if the spell is good. And the spell, we have Shield's Might. 1 and a green. Target creature gets its instant adventure. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Now we're talking. Pretty down on combat tricks in general, because they expose you to so much risk when you're trying to resolve a combat trick into open mana and cards. However, turning combat tricks into a 2-for-1 by giving you this creature after, again, I'm just in love with the value of these adventure cards. As long as both sides are reasonable, they're great. They're just great if both sides are reasonable, because it's effectively a 2-for-1. And Robert points out something very important to note about adventures. If you cast this into open mana and cards, and your opponent does do something to make it, to counter it or fizzle it, they kill the creature out from underneath you or whatever. When this spell fizzles or is countered, it goes to your graveyard, and you do not get the exile and later cast it as a 3/2. So keep that in mind. Maybe that raises up counter magic a little bit in this set. I hadn't really said that out loud before, but we'll keep an eye on that. It could be that we like counter magic a little more than usual in this format, just because countering adventure cards is countering a 2-for-1. So there's that. Now let's vote here on our friend the Carver. Get that in there. I wonder if, would it help if I did this? Like, put the name of the card before I do the poll? That's not too much work. Maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna mute and have a snack while you vote. Okay, I won't bother, Shogmoth, thanks. Garen Brig Paladin is 4 and a green for a 4/4. Classic baseline starting point for a lot of common magic cards, but then you need a lot out of what they offer on the rules text to play these days. Adamant. So if you spend 3 green instead of 1, you get +1/+1 counter on it, a 5/5. And has the important rules text, Garen Brig Paladin can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. I'd played a pretty defensive, controlling, I forget the exact colors yesterday, but a controlling deck with a lot of low-powered creatures. And the Paladin ran over us, frankly. They played a couple of them, beefed them up, and got some counters on it elsewhere. And suddenly I had 6/6s and 7/7s that my dirty little dudes couldn't block, and we lost to that. So I did have that one experience with it. So that inability of small creatures to block can make a huge difference. But at the end of the day, it's a 5-drop. You know, I wouldn't prioritize it too highly because you're going to fill in your 5s, and most 5-drop creatures are just going to be solid, beefy, and do their thing, and they're fairly replaceable. So I'm going to play some of these happily in a good green deck, but it's not a priority by any stretch. And now I'm going to run a poll for it. It's a giant. There is some giant. There's a giant wrath. Destroy all creatures that aren't giants. Something to keep in mind. Garen Squire is 1 and a green for a 2/2 human soldier at common, and whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, Garen Squire gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I thought maybe it'd get a counter, and that would make it super sweet. The fact that it's not a permanent counter kind of puts this in, what's that boar from RNA territory? You know, yeah, sometimes this is going to be a 3/3 attacker, but mostly it's probably not, and therefore I kind of rate this the same way I would rate just a little bit better than a grizzly bear. It's like a grizzly bear plus, and sometimes you need that to fill in your curve, and we don't know yet how good a grizzly bear is. One of the things I talk about in set reviews is using previous, bellwether cards. What are the types of cards that you expect to see in a format? And they can be good or bad depending on the stuff around them. So classically, like, how good is divination in a given set? How good is a grizzly bear in a given set? How good is, draw 3 for 5, that kind of thing. So one baseline question we have for the format is, how good are 2/2s for 2? Sometimes they're amazing, and you're going to play this and be happy even if it didn't have an ability. Sometimes they're awful, and this ability isn't going to be enough to even get you to play it. And we don't know what this format is yet. So bears are always just kind of a wait and see in terms of we got to learn the format to understand how good bears are. But that's what we're looking for out of and understand, it's better than the average bear. No jokes intended. There you go. Yeah, Rob, I'm going to post this to YouTube tonight. Is this Rob saying, I'm out? All right, give us a poll on Garen Squire here. Yeah, and obviously heavy adventure gives it a bonus as well. If we're doing an adventure build around and it's pretty reliably, like if it's a 3/3 half the time, that's pretty great. I guess I'm saying I expect it in the typical deck to be a 3/3 like on 10%, 10 to 20% of the turns, but if it gets up into like half, then maybe that's a lot better. Oh, is this one of the mythic artifacts? Probably. Find him a weapon as big as his dreams, Yorvo, Lord of Garen Brig. Well, that is the question, right? I don't know, Guru. They often print multiple 2-drops in green, so the answer is I don't know yet. Let's finish the green, and then maybe it goes up by the end because there's no other 2-drops. Giant Opportunity is kind of a build around here. At 2 and a green for a sorcery, you may sacrifice 2 foods. If you do, create a 7/7 green giant creature token. Otherwise, create 3 food tokens. Clever. 3 beans, making 3 food tokens. Or you can plant them by sacrificing them and build a beanstalk up to this giant. I salute the flavor team. I salute the creative. Oh my god, this set and it's creative. It's all great. Lovely creative. My problem is the setup and the lack of evasion. I'm not sure how quickly you're getting to 2 foods. If you have a lot of food riders, then this becomes okay as a 3 mana 7/7. But it also kind of underscores that I don't. How early are you going to get this out? I mean, this is going to be super variable in terms of its power level based on how early you're creating food. Because if I finally have 2 food tokens to sacrifice on turn 7, and I spend 3 mana for this giant opportunity, and then pass the turn with 4 mana unspent, it didn't do anything, right? It only matters if we can power this out. So I'm pretty down on it, and I would say it's a build around, because it's not even just that your deck has a bunch of food. It's that your deck has a bunch of food that can deploy to the battlefield within the first 4 or 5 turns, because I want to be casting this on turn 5-ish to be really happy. Agamas, is this worth it for multiples? Is it worth 2 cards for a 7/7 and a food? Probably not. I don't think that's worth 2 cards. James, you do. I'm saying it doesn't make it great. At that point, it's fairly replaceable. I'm saying Giant Opportunity becomes great when you can cast it early, and it becomes like any other giant green thing late. All right, let's vote on it. This is your giant opportunity to let your voice be heard on Going Optimal. All right, Real Zug has to go. Is the spreadsheet open? Like, can anybody edit it, Real Zug, or does somebody need permission? Anybody can edit it? Okay. All right, somebody step it up and take over for anybody who cares about voting. If you care about voting, step up and help out. We're looking to hold on. Let me see where we're at. Oh yes. Yeah. All right. So we're down. Someone wants to take over. We're looking for somebody to do updates here. All right. It's a giant opportunity for somebody to enter in some data into a spreadsheet. Gilded Goose, you say? Everybody's making Untitled Goose memes about the Gilded Goose now. That's I am a dad, you know, so you gotta play your puns straight, or they don't land the way you want, which is painfully. Gilded Goose is green for an 0/2 bird. It's got flying. When Gilded Goose enters the battlefield, create a food token, and it has one tap, one in green tap, create a food token, and tap, sacrifice a food, add 1 mana of any color. All right, you get one right away, so that's nice. And then you have to start working for it. So it's just kind of like a bird of paradise, except you only get the ramp once until you start pumping out food tokens. But repeat food token making is exciting to me. Now this goes with this, right? Gilded Goose creates a food token on 1, and then you can create another one on 2, and then play this on 3. So, so that would be a fun combo. Maybe try and make that your goal. But how good is it? Like, are we going to first pick it? Are we excited about it? I mean, it ramps, it fixes, it gives you life. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this does enough things that you're going to be happy with the results. Often you just need that initial burst of mana to power out something dumb, and then the mana from something like an elf or a bird doesn't do much. So what I really like about this is that it kind of trades ongoing mana availability for having more relevance in the late game in terms of spitting out food tokens. So I think it's pretty good. What do you think? Let's vote on it. Oh, that's not the right template. Pack 1, pick 1. I'm probably taking this basically every time. Green looks pretty strong in the set, and fixing and ramp and food token synergies. It's like there's a lot of different directions you can go with it. So I think it's a nice little package of a goose here. Robert points out that there's all sorts of equipment that can actually turn this into a real threat, because it does have flying. Good call, Robert. That's another thing to keep in mind about your Gilded Goose. Maybe notch up your equipment a little bit when you have a goose in your pile. The Great Henge is next. It's a mythic. It's 7 green, and there's a cycle of these where they cost less based on something or another. Let's see what this is. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So that seems like you could get it down pretty cheap. Like, let's say you're playing a 3-power creature on 3, 7, 6, 5, 4, then it's still 6. Let's say you want to, if you play a 5-drop, then it's 2. What does it do? You add green, and you gain 2 life. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ooh, and draw a card. They buried the lead, because I didn't like this card till we finally got to those last 3 words. Yeah, this seems great. You're gaining a bunch of life, you're ramping to cool stuff, and your creatures enter large and cantripy. You do not have to do too much work before this gets insano. You need creatures. It doesn't help much to have it pay 9 to not do much, but I think you just want to take this early and then make sure you're stacking your deck with high power. You know, get some 4 and 5 power in there to really bring it down into castable range. Because if you have 4 power, and 6, 5, 4, 3, then it's a 5 mana. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I think it's strong, and let's see what you all think. Some say I never heard of ya, a rap burglar. Thank you for the sub, Oni. How you been, Oni? This seems pretty bonkers. How bonkers is it? You guys can decide. I'm just going to windmill slam it when I see it and build around it. Oh, I left before the poll finished. Sorry, Shogmoth, but hopefully it's all right. Insatiable Appetite is an instant for 1 and a green. You may sacrifice a food. If you do, target creature gets +5/+5 until end of turn. Otherwise, that creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Pretty medium. We did win a game yesterday because they were at 9 and we attacked such they allowed 1 4-power blocker through and we had food, so we got to kill them. But whatever, that's something that Pump can do. It's still ultimately a pump spell. Not much of a food payoff. Often the difference between 3/3 and 5/5 isn't a big deal because you're casting this spell to win combat and you win it at 3/3 and winning it at 5/5 is just win more. So not super important, but it was super important when we won the game with it because without the 5/5 we would not have been able to deal 9, you know. There's some double strike though, Robert. That's a good point. There's the common, is it a common red creature that has double strike on it? Making an 11/11 double strike is a good way to win a game of Magic. So maybe that's a combo with it if you can find some double strike with it. But other than that, I think it's just a classic medium to low medium combat trick, and we'll pull it. Alrighty, Keeper of Fables. Moving on. 3 green for a 4/5. If there's no drawback, I kind of like this already. 5 for a 4/5 has been solid lately. There's an uncommon. Whenever 1 or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So they don't all turn into Ophidians. You don't just get to draw because you got 3 creatures through. You only get to draw once. And it's weird that it's non-human. A lot of non-human stuff going on in the set, but that seems like a great ability to tack on. Makes me like this in decks with evasion, especially if you're playing blue-green. This seems great. Get them up in the air. And remember, because you can play this on 5, play it pre-combat, and then have one of your non-humans deal combat damage that turn, and you can get your card back right away. I don't think it's going to be too hard to get your card back here, and if you're not, then if you don't, then you are in really bad shape. Probably against flyers or something. I don't know. I think this is great though. I would put a 4/5 for 5 in just to shore up that spot in the curve, even though it's not impressive from a green creature. But it says draw a card on it, and it doesn't seem that hard to do. I mean, the point of the game, for the most part, is to, especially limited, attack your opponent down to 0. So you're trying to deal damage. I don't know. This just seems excellent for the possible repeated card draw. Yep. And 5 toughness gets around a lot of the removal. Although there is the classic common red spell that for 5 mana deals 5. So it does have that to face. Looks like somewhere between 5 and 6, according to people. That's good. Somebody tracking all this? Oh, yeah, it looks like somebody is. Thank you. Who's tracking this? I want to thank you. Whoever's tracking it, thank you. Kenrith's transformation. What happened to Kenrith? Kenrith became Elmer? Okay, Kenrith's transformation is 1 and a green for an enchantment aura at uncommon, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, so that's nice as long as the coast is clear. And then enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness of 3/3. What's interesting to me about this card is that you can use it in both directions. You can transform one of your weakest creatures into a 3/3, and you can transform your opponent's Mega Bomb into a 3/3 if that's going to be better for you. The nice thing is, either way, you're drawing a card. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you would sometimes expect and see Wizards printing without the draw card clause, and maybe even for just green or something. This is wildly better with the draw card. It is so good. You just have to, with that, you just have to make sure that you cast it while the coast is clear, and that you have something that you want to transform. I guess the other fail case here is that there's literally nothing on the battlefield that you actually want to turn into a 3/3. So keep that in mind. Make sure you've got enough expendable and low-class creatures to be able to effectively turn one into a 3/3. But I think the draw card makes this something I'm quite happy to play. Hat given some lore spoilers. Oko turns the king into an elk for a ceremonial hunt to start a war. Interesting. I'm not a story goob, but I'm happy to hear from the people who are. Thank you, Hat. Skeptical Hat and I ran into each other in the queues a couple weeks ago, I think, right? That had to be you, right? There's no other Skeptical Hats out there. You caught me offline. I can't remember how our game ended up, but GG either way. Oh, let's vote on this. What do you think of this? Blackadder suggests turning Flaxen Intruder into a 3/3. I would rather just not play the Flaxen Intruder, but there you go. Interesting. Hat is talking about gaming the system with Mastery by not winning this week, so that the 15 win streak that starts the win XP that starts tomorrow will be full. That's interesting. Yeah, Hat's gonna get some extra XP, but frankly, Wizards has been so generous with XP in regards to Mastery passes that I'm just not worried about it. I think anybody playing regularly get to 100 pretty easily. It will be completely reset. And that's why, wins and quests get refreshed, says, I don't know how to pronounce your name. But if that's true, then Hat is wasting his time. Bah, he says. Failed to game the system. Nice try. Lovestruck Beast. We have Beauty and the Beast here. 2 and a green for a 5/5 at rare, Beast Noble. But Lovestruck Beast can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. And what do you know? It has an adventure attached, and you Heart's Desire on turn 1, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So if you start with the adventure, make a 1/1 on 1, and then ideally on 3, you create a 5/5, and it can attack because you have a 1/1. That seems very powerful, but fragile. They kill your 1/1, and then it can't attack anymore. But let's note that it can block. So even if they kill your 1/1, you have a 5/5 ground blocker, which is pretty nice. Like, I mean, I was playing the fish, you know, 3/3 defender for 2. So 5/5 defender for 3 isn't even the worst. And then if you can keep your 1/1 around or make a different one, you get to swing. That seems pretty strong to me. Really value package here. You're talking 6 power and toughness for 4 total mana installment planned. Yeah, reasonable 4-drop 2. 2 green will get you this on 4. Yeah, and if but what I would do is if you end up with a Lovestruck Beast early, do look for other good 1/1 creatures that you can take or things that create 1/1s. So you might want to create new 1/1s so that your beast can attack. All right, let's vote this one up. But seems really strong. That's just a really great package of stats, and I'm going to be first picking that basically whenever I see it, and then just trying to make sure I have some extra 1/1s around to you know, you got to give the Lovestruck Beast a rebound option. The real problem, though, I'll mention, there may be a lot of 1/1s, but 1/1s aren't typically good. Yeah, especially, you know, 1/1s for one. I don't want to play a bad 1/1 for one just because I have the Lovestruck Beast. I want good 1/1s or truly a good token making on that front. Robert calls out the carriage as a place to go with making 1/1s there. We'll get to those when we get to artifacts, but yeah. I will tell that right to Fairy Guidemother's face because I don't think Fairy Guidemother's that great, but maybe it is. Maybe there's aggro, in which case it'll be fine. Nick calls out the nice combo. We were talking about the Innkeeper as the adventure build around, so if you can go Innkeeper and Beast. Right, you know. I mean, look. It does not surprise me that this Beast is a bit polyamorous. Seems they'd be... What's... There's got to be some word for it in the... in the animal kingdom. Marleaf Rider is next. We have a 1 and a green for a 3/1, and you can sacrifice a food. Target creature blocks Marleaf Rider this turn if able. That is super strong. Wow, impressed. I'm so... I was kind of just... We're kind of done with the old 3/1 for 2, right? We again and again, set after set, say... That, oh, did I not do a poll? Did I do a poll on the Beast? I can't even remember now. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay. Sorry. So anyway, Marleaf Rider. This is great. Lure, you know, I've been saying how you can use your food besides life gain is a big factor in this set. And here's a great use for your food without life gain. Besides life gain, you just make their big, scary 3 toughness thing block this. So, and if you get it down early and they don't, it can also just really punish a stumble, right? How many times have you been like, I cannot believe I'm losing to this stupid 3/1, but I stumbled and I can't get on board, you know? So it has that factor going for it as well. But generally, we don't like the 3/1 for 2, but this is bringing something extra to the table that makes me pretty happy. And if you had a lot of food, you could even do a major lure effect and have multiple creatures block it this turn. Irish is like if, but you'd rather have that other 2 drop. I'm in for Rider as long as I'm making any kind of food. I think you're going to be so happy to turn Marleaf Rider into a removal spell. Like, so much of the food is incidental. You just get incidental food in the format. And if you think of the food as kind of free-ish, then the ability to have a mode of like either I'm a 3/1 beatdown for 2, or I am kill target creature with 3 toughness, I think that's pretty good. But let's see what the people think. You all vote on it. Queen, you have this at a 2, huh? Interesting. I think 2 is way too low. Even if you don't like it, it should be a 3. Here I am worrying about ratings, though. I was going to let you guys worry about that. I'm going to keep in mind that this gets much better with food. I mean, the judgment, Tim knows. We're here judging magic cards and judging each other's judgments of our judgments of the judging. Very judgmental. Came Adversary is a 3 and a green uncommon 2/3 elf warrior. 2/3 elf warrior at 4 is not exciting. What do you got for us? This spell costs 2 less to cast if your opponent controls a green permanent. It has Death Touch. Unusual to see death. Well, I guess not. No, it's not unusual. We see it on common all the time now. It's just mostly black, so it's still kind of. I usually used to seeing it on these tiny ones, but Death Touch 2/3, that's fine. But whenever Came Adversary deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Hello. Once again, bearing the lead with the final 3 words on the rules text. Here's the thing: if you get to cast this at a discount, it's probably not getting through very easily. But then again, what I love about this card is that with Death Touch, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you block, I'm going to kill your blocker. If you don't block, I'm going to draw a card. I think that's a nice dichotomy to apply pressure on your opponent with, and really feels quite strong because of that. And I think the discount would be nice. I mean, 4 is a lot. We're talking about a 2/3 for 4. But if you need to get something dead, it's going to be at least do it on the ground. And maybe I'm just maybe I'm best case scenario mentalitying it in my head in terms of course we're going to hit them and draw a card. On defense, it's worse than the Death Touchers we've seen, I guess is what I'm getting at. If you are back on D, you would much rather have the 1/1 Death Touch for 1 or the 2/2 Death Touch for 3. So a 2/3 Death Touch for 4, not great. But if there's any hope of you attacking, then it really starts to turn a corner and look really nice. So the question is, how often are you going to be able to be aggro with it? So, yeah, I think it's on its defensive side, it's much worse than the other Death Touch we've seen, but the fact that you can turn this into potentially a card draw engine is pretty great. Probably wears equipment really well as well. Can you get a first strike? Is there first strike equipment? That would be great. Anti-goose. Good anti-goose tech, you're right. All right, what do you vote on this? Blackadder, yep. Also, Flaxen Intruder would be really sad to see this on your turn 2. Once and Future. Oh, this is what our oppo did yesterday to get back their food troll for like the 7th time. It was awful. We almost won, but could not stop the troll on like the. Oh, maybe we did win. Yeah, I think we did. I think we beat like the troll being cast a million times. Anyway, Once and Future is 3 and a green for an instant. Return target card. Often this for green is permanent or creature, but note that it's just return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Put up to 1 other target card from your graveyard on top of your library, and then exile Once and Future. Adamant, if you spend at least 3 green mana to cast it, instead return those cards to your hand and exile Once and Future. So if you can really pound out the green, this becomes a draw your 2 best cards in the graveyard, which is insane. And if you can't, it's draw your best and set up your draw, which was also good. Of course, you don't want this early. This isn't doing anything during developing. But if you're at parity or behind, and if you're behind, maybe it's clunky. But if you're at parity, certainly this just changes everything, right? It certainly changed it for us in the game against Oppo, where they reset their bombs this way. Another thing I just want to keep hammering on about this set, returning stuff from your graveyard to your hand just gets a lot better because there's so many 2-for-1 creatures in this set. Basically, every good adventure creature is effectively a 2-for-1, and when you return one of those to your hand with a card like this, you're getting both sides of that 2-for-1 again. So the compounding of advantage and value here is pretty great, especially in the adventure heavy green color. So I like this a lot. I think I'm going to take it pretty highly. What do you think? You don't want a ton of them. It's a late game card. You need stuff in the graveyard first, of course. But if you're going for a long, grindy game, pretty darn good. Yeah, I don't know if you even want the second. You really don't want to get these early, but I definitely want one of these in basically every green deck I'm playing. The any card and not just creature or permanent is a pretty big deal. They had to give it an exile clause so you couldn't just loop a bunch of once and futures. All right. Yeah, I want to call out what Blackadder just pointed out there, that this gets much better in self-mill decks. When you can stock your own graveyard, definitely goes up in value. Once Upon a Time is another rare. It's 1 and a green for an instant. If it's the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Okay. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. A little bit clunky at 2, but you're still going to play it. And the fact that it's instant is nice because, like, maybe you're doing some stuff at instant speed. You have a combat trick and you're like, well, on their turn, if I need to, I can use this combat trick. But if not, I can Once Upon a Time at the end of their turn. That's pretty good. And obviously, if you're doing this out of the gate, it's just bonkers. And I almost wonder if this is going to be like a modern card, because whenever a card lets you look at the top 5 cards of your library and basically choose one of them for 0 mana, I think modern seems like they'd be interested. But yeah, it's not a very sexy rare, but I think we're going to play it in every green deck. Even if it's not your first spell, you're pretty happy to, in a limited deck especially, dig through the top 5 looking for your best stuff. What do you think? Pretty wide range here. We got a 5, we got a 7, 4, 3, from 3 to 7. Yeah, I don't know, Steven. That is the fundamental question of the card, right? Is the drawback of drawing this at 2 later that big of a drawback? But if you're ramping or frankly, even late game modern, if modern goes to the late game, you're going to have extra mana. No big deal. I kind of like, that's how it works for me, in the sense that it's like, you get it first thing and you get it free. And then the later ones will cost you, but by then it doesn't matter as much. All right, Outmuscles is our next card. We have 3 and a green for a sorcery at common. Excuse me. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then it fights target creature you don't control. Adamant, if at least 3 green mana was spent to cast this spell, the creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. So here's the thing. Yeah, so Outmuscle, what does the Adamant get us? I mean, first let's look at it as a sorcery speed, +1/+1 counter, and fight. Like, we've seen that before. And frankly, the +1/+1 counter is big game. A lot of times these cards give you a temporary boost for that turn. Creature gets +2/+2. They fight until end of turn, and then they fight. I think I like this a little better. Permanently upgrading your creature is no joke. What I'm kind of unimpressed by is actually the Adamant side of it, because what does it really get us to Adamant this? What it gets us is high power, low toughness creatures are much better at fighting. and fights in which we would have 2-for-1 to ourselves become 1-for-1s again. I guess that's decent, taking these spots where we wouldn't have done it because it would have been 2-for-1 against, and instead doing it because it's 1-for-1 has some advantages, and it's just tack on, it's extra text, because I kind of like the baseline pre-adamant text just fine. I'm just saying the adamant side doesn't actually add too much to the set, or to the card. But you know, you're going to want to play Outmuscle in decks that really have the high power. You know, don't put this in a deck that is a bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s. All right. What do you think of this one? Where do you have it? Yeah, green seems super beef, right? Doesn't seem like it's going to be hard to put beef in your green decks. I'm just saying make sure you do have it. You don't want to run this without it. Yeah, suplexing a bear is a pretty sweet pretty sweet piece of art. Cracking the earth with it. Nice job, Victor. Crossbow points out another advantage of the adamant feature, that you can attack afterwards with the creature and not worry about it dying. That's a really great point. I didn't mention it. I'm glad you brought it up, because there are a lot of times where you play something like Outmuscle. Like, let's say you have a 5/5 and they have a 4/4, and you go ahead and fight it, and so now you have a 6/6, and it's successfully won a fight. But now over there they've got a 2/2, and you don't attack that turn because they're going to block with a 2/2, deal an extra 2, and now you've lost your creature. So it's a definite plus in its favor that if you that you can, even when you were winning, follow up an attack with your big creature in times that you might not have without the adamant. Good call. Thank you for calling that out, Crossbow. Nice. Yeah, that's what I felt, Steven. The Hunt the Weak was pretty good at 4. You know, this is just Hunt the Weak with a clause. And Hunt the Weak was solid, I thought. Questing Beast. We have a 2/3 mythic legendary creature beast for and it's a 4/4. It has vigilance, death touch, and haste. Oh my. This beast is busy. Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Okay. Just the hits keep coming. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. Okay, that's a little narrow, but it's still upside. Whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. Not super relevant to limited, but obviously doing something for the constructed folks there. And if you do happen to pick off a planeswalker in limited with the Questing Beast, you know, send Marshall and Luis a screenshot. This is just an overwhelming smorgasbord of positivity. I mean, I was saying I liked the 4/4 for 4 at common, and that had it had trample and make some food, and I was already in for that. So vigilance, death touch, haste, hard to block, can't be. Yeah, this is a tight package. I mean, it's still just. It's not going to win games on its own, but it's just going to be a powerhouse of stats. And the death touch means that if they need to double block it, they 2-for-1 themselves. You get haste. It's just a stat monster. But I like a good stat monster. I'm not going to pass it. I don't pass mythics anyway, but happily you're going to play this. Yeah, the haste in constructed tends to be helpful with the planeswalker control because they don't see it coming. They don't leave blockers back or whatever. And of course, you can just go after the player and still have it deal damage. You get to attack both players and planeswalkers at the same time, so that's cool. A lot of people have it at 7. I don't think a card that is just a creature can really be a 7. It can't take over the game that way. For me to give something the top grade, it has to be able to single-handedly win games that you were losing, you know, or just come down and completely take over. And I just don't think this quite does that, but it's very strong. Very strong. Return of the Wild Speaker. Garrick is back. I lost to Garrick yesterday. He's real good. Return of the Wild Speaker is 4 and a green for a rare instant. Choose one of these two choices. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Instant is nice. Usually green forces you to commit to this, get everything big before you attack. And if you're not ready for an alpha, you get to get yourself ready by drawing a lot of cards. Now, of course, this has the drawback of being utterly awful when you don't have a significant board. I have no idea what happened in the story here, but it looks like the veil, he had the veil curse, right? He was cursed. Congratulations, Garrick. I'm glad you're free again. But we are free to play or not play this card. Do we like it? It requires some build around, but ultimately it's the build around of doing what you want to do in limited, which is build out a big board. So you gotta find some non-humans, but other than that, I think this is pretty sweet. And I'm happily gonna I think I'd happily first pick this and try and build around it. Both modes represent some power, provided you are spitting out creatures. I would just certainly prioritize my creature count at that point. What do you think? How good is it? This second mode, non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 and until end of turn. I guarantee you we're going to be playing around that at some point, or when we ask ourselves, okay, how can we lose this game? It's going to be, oh, they might have Return of the Wild Speaker, you know? So we got to keep this one in mind. Return to Nature. This is a reprint, is it not? Return to Nature is 1 and a green. Choose one. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So it's naturalized with 1 extra option. Sideboard at best and best of 3, and I'm probably never going to play it in best of 1, if I'm honest. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not sure what number you want to put on it, but go ahead and tell me what number you'd put on it. But yeah, it's funny. It's the carriage is turned back into a pumpkin, so you have destroyed target artifact. I see what they did there. Put some new art on the same card, and it becomes a brand new card. I don't think you can ever main deck this, but if you give the fact that it can do some work out of the sideboard some value, you could go higher than 1 on it. All right, Rosethorn Acolyte is 2 and a green for a creature elf druid at common. It does have an adventure attached, but let's look at the creature. It taps to add 1 mana of any color. 2/3, tap, add 1 mana of any color. That's pretty solid, really. We've accepted things like 2/2s for 3 that do this. You know, Scuttlemutt. Scuttlemutt does some other stuff or whatever, but, you know, there was a... Oh, what was it called? I can't even remember. It was a non-relevant creature type, but it was like a 2/2 for 3 in green that tapped to untap a permanent or a land, so you kind of did it. But, like, this is just strong even before the adventure. So let's see what the adventure is. Seasonal Ritual for green. Sorcery Adventure. Add 1 mana of any color. So you're paying a green and filtering, like it's a one-time fixing situation. All right, so maybe it's not amazing. The adventure doesn't do all that much, but maybe you get some narrow fixing early on that you need, and that you could do worse. So it has this chance of fixing something early, and then you get to play out a decent rampy type creature. I was pretty okay with the creature. So the adventure did not have to impress me all that much because I was pretty fine on the baseline stats of the creature. And it's not a very impressive adventure, but the primary use case of it is, yeah, I have green to start, and I've got this nice green and whatever 2-drop that I want to get to, and this helps you do that. And then you get to cast it on 3 and fix your other color anyway. So It's mostly about the 2/3 tap to add 1 mana of any color, but the seasonal ritual can help you power out something before you can get the Rosethorn Acolyte on board. Another Innkeeper card for sure. But what do you rate it? Go ahead. Yeah, fixing seems tight, so I'm pretty attracted to all of these green fix any color type cards. That's my phone rattling at me. Rosethorn Halberd is next. It's an equipment. It costs a single green mana, and when Rosethorn Halberd enters the battlefield, attach it to target non-human creature you control. An equipped creature gets +2/+1. All that is great until we get to the final line. Equip 5. Womp womp. Now here's the thing though. How often do you move equipment around during a game? It's not 0. But it's not something you usually do just like a bunch. You're not usually throwing equipment around all over the place every turn. I mean, sometimes maybe you do it with like the bows or whatever. So if you can get this onto something where you want to keep it, it's fine, but then it may as well be an aura. It's kind of, here, you can think of it this way. It's like the same auras we don't like, except when the aura is knocked off, you get to pay 5 to reattach it from your graveyard almost, you know? Still, 5 can seem like a lot, and it is to equip, but it's for your second equip. And often you have time for that, you know, or, you know, you've bashed into each other, traded off a lot, and now the battlefield has a couple of creatures, oh, and your equipment is off that creature and sitting on the ground. Eventually you're going to get this equipped again, and then that's not bad. So where do we like it? I'm not going to prioritize this. I think another problem with equipment is just like, you're competing with spell slots and creature slots. It can be hard to fit them in. But if you are also, I like this in a blue-green flying deck. Like if you have evasion, I'm much more pleased with putting +2/+1 on a creature for 1 mana if it's evasive. So keep that in mind. Gets a big boost in evasive decks. But beyond that, it's got some downside if your creature gets killed. So I would kind of rate it better than if it was an aura, but it's really got a serious drawback in its equip cost. Yeah, I would kind of value it like it's an aura. And if the format turns out to be incredibly grindy and goes incredibly long with game to game, then this rises. But if there's any kind of fun police or aggro, then you really need to value this like the aura that it plays like. Some 2s and some 3s. Yeah, putting this on a flyer seems great, but it's still risky because it's still very aura-like. They kill that creature and knock this off, and now you're waiting around forever to equip this again. So beware of that. Treat it like an aura mostly, I think. Sporecap Spider. We've seen this before. Sporecap is 2 and a green for a 1/5 with reach. It's funny. It's kind of like a hybrid between the baby spider and big spider from M20. I like the early defense. I like at least having 1 point of power. That's really important. You want to be able to threaten to kill low toughness flyers, and there are a significant number of like 1/1 flyers in the set. But it's not a high priority. I will have to see, like I always said about M20, that when I was in black-green, I really wanted to have reach and spiders in my deck because flying was so good in M20 that if you weren't prepared to deal with it via creatures and were putting yourself in a spot where you had to spend premium removal to answer flyers from opponents, that's a real drag because then you run out of removal and whatever they have left gets you. So making sure that you're controlling flyers with reach is a real priority of mine when I'm playing a green deck that doesn't have a lot of flying of its own. So it's not a super impressive card, and you don't have to prioritize it, but I do think the role of making sure flyers don't get you is important, and 5 toughness on a reach creature at 3 is going to stop a lot of flyers right in their tracks. So definitely playable, just not hyper important in your priority. What do you think? I'm loving this, by the way. Letting you guys do the voting and just let me do the talking. I'm in. If you like this, I like it. What do we say this might be? Is it if anybody knows an official pronunciation for this, let me know. But I'm going to go with Sir Farron, the Hedgehammer. We had a situation yesterday where Farron, the Hedgehammer, the Hengehammer, was wearing glass slippers, so that was kind of funny. But she still beat the hell out of us. Anyway, what is the card up to? Green and a green for a 2/2 legendary creature human knight at uncommon. And when this creature attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Sir Farron's power. And I much more prefer this as a 2/2 for 2, even a more difficult to cast one than, say, the 3/3 for 3 and a green we saw in RNA. I think you want to get this low down, get it going. And this makes me want combat tricks and stuff, not only to protect it with combat tricks on block, but sometimes you can go combat trick pre-combat, make this into a the food thing. Let's make this into a 7/7, and then attack and give some flyer +7/+7. You know, so there's some abusive things you can do with cards like Sir Farron. And as Robert pointed out, there's a ton of equipment in the format. There's a lot of equipment. Like maybe I would run a Rose Thorn Halberd if I could be sure that I was getting it on Sir Farron pretty quickly. You know, that's pretty nuts. Suddenly giving +4/+4. So I'm big on this card, except for the GG. Although again, this is proving to be a format that's asking you to commit to a color as your main. And so I'm expecting that if you're playing this, you're going to want to be the base green deck with at least 10 forests. Oh, can't equip because it's human. Good call. Sorry, it's another fairy tale clause, because it's like fairy tales are non-humans against humans. So that's another kind of flavor thing that Wizards is doing with the fairy tale themes. Non-human versus human, the classic fairy tale battle. But yes, so not that equipment, but the equipment point stands, right? That this wears equipment well when it's allowed to. What do you think? Yeah, not for free, but still, I'm really, when it comes to this card, I'm thinking about its freeness, not the 5. But it is worth pointing out, it can eventually be equipped if you pay the mana. All right, next we have Tall as a Beanstalk. We got 3 and a green for an enchantment. It's an aura, so I don't like it yet. We'll see. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3, has reach, and is a giant in addition to its other types. Well, you know how I feel about auras. However, this is a pretty big boost. What I would say is that if you're creating a lot of tokens, when you take like a weenie, dumb, dorky 1/1 token that you essentially got for free, and you turn it into a 4/4 with reach, you know, that could be worth a card. But in general principle, I'm not looking to say, you know, cast a 3-drop and then put this on it on 4. I'm going to lose to this card, and it's going to tilt the hell out of me, but I'm not going to be playing it much. What do you think? Are you going to be playing it much? Like, I don't know, if you're making flying spirit tokens or something a lot, then maybe turning a spirit token into a Sarah Angel you could do worse. But even then, I don't know. Still just an aura that I'm not super stoked on. Yeah, good flavor text. He realized a bit late that he was supposed to plant the magic beans. Although, if he swallowed it and it grew out of his stomach, I think it would be a lot more of a gruesome scene than we see right here. Trail of Crumbs is 1 and a green for an enchantment. When Trail of Crumbs enters the battlefield, create a food token. Okay, what do we get for that? Because this is an uncommon. Hopefully this is an uncommon build around. Whenever you sacrifice a food, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Sign me up. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Now this here is a frickin' food build around. Wowie. Yeah, I want to make a Trail of Crumbs right to my keyboard and mouse. This seems great as a build around. Also, you can do it on 2, and you get a food token right away even. Like, it makes its own food token. Like, it's even a combo with itself. Like, I would play this, I think, I might play this if there was no other... Nah, you wouldn't play it if there was no other food in your deck. Because 3 total mana to look at the top 2 and choose between one of them isn't worth it. But... also, you're not going to brick too often in Limited. Between your lands and your creatures and anything else that happens to be a permanent, you're basically going to hit every time. But I'm very excited about this, and I want to build around it like tomorrow. Can we build around this tomorrow? We probably can't because we don't get to draft until Monday. But Monday, I'm going to start building around this. So, yeah. Pick up some food, and this seems really great. What do you think? Nick thinks I'm too high on it. What'd you give it, Nick? What did you vote? I will say it does depend on speed. You're right that if this is an aggro-heavy format, if you're making a Trail of Crumbs in the forest while knights are beating on your doorstep, you may be unhappy. But assuming you're a food-heavy deck, you probably have some tools to at least eat some food to survive if you need to. I don't know, Nick, I hear you, but I'm kind of excited about it. I guess it just says draw a card, so... or effectively draw a card. It doesn't actually say draw a card. It's even better than... Well, actually, I should... Not in this format. I was going to say it's better than draw a card, because and it's not better than draw a card, because they actually want to draw your second card. So worth noting as an aside that this does not trigger your... when you draw your second card in the turn clauses. People have it between a 4 and a 5 with a build around kind of assumption. That's cool. Huh. Nick is not pumped about Trail of Crumbs. I'm pretty pumped. We'll see. Maybe you're right, Nick, and I will come back to you later and say, yes, you left me with the crumbs and you were correct. But I'm going to give it a try, I think. I want to make it work. Twin? Is it Twin? If anyone wants to tell me how this city is pronounced, let me know. But it's a tree folk. It's 5 and a green for a creature tree folk druid at common. And it has Oaken Boon attached to an adventure. Oh, it's a 6/5, by the way. So a 6/5 for 6. We're used to like a 6/6 for 6 with trample and stuff from green. So 6/5 for 6 ain't great, but it does have this adventure, and it's a nice one. Oaken Boon says 3 and a green sorcery. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. That means you cannot put it on multiple creatures, just the one. Just making one creature bigger. But that's pretty decent. It's like it's an aura, right? 3 and a green to put 2+1/+1 counters is effectively an aura. But this is an aura with a reasonably priced and reasonably sized body attached. So as much as I'm down on auras in the abstract, or putting all your eggs into a basket where you can be 2 for 1, you can't really be 2 for 1 here because you have the 6/5 on the back end that provides some extra value beyond just the counters. And I had a sealed deck yesterday where I started with one of these, and then I added a second one, and then by the end I had all 3. I had 3 of these, and I ended up playing all 3. And because I was so creature heavy, it actually worked out pretty fine. Yeah, more reminders from people that if you get targeted sorcery, if you get targeted adventure spells countered or fizzled because they remove the target, you do not get access to the 6/5. So Oaken Boon, it's a strong card, but as with all adventures, and really with any instant or sorcery, but especially the adventure ones, you really want to find that window where you are confident you're going to resolve the spell. Or you need to be in desperation mode where it's like, well, I can't, if they can counter it, I can't beat them anyway, so we're just going to go for it, you know? I didn't start voting on this yet, though, right? All right, so we're going to vote on this. Tell me what you think. Skeptical Hat coming up with some really edge case scenarios, but it's legit. Skeptical Hat points out that if you had to, you could target an opponent's creature with it. If you knew that they were going to make you discard from this to your hand or something, you could put this put 2 counters on a 1/1 that they have, and then make a 6/5 the next turn or something that can win combat anyway. Not going to come up much, but a cute, fancy play to observe as possible. Wicked Wolf is 2 green for a 3/3 creature wolf at rare. When Wicked Wolf enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. I am snap in. And then it has Snackerfice. Isn't sacrificing a food snackerficing anyway? I think I'm just going to call it that. I'm going to snackerfice this food. To get a +1/+1 counter on Wicked Wolf, it gains indestructible until end of turn and tap it. So one thing to note about this play sequence, if it enters the battlefield, the trigger goes on the stack of it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. While that is on the stack, you can sacrifice a food token to make it a 4/4 indestructible. So if you're trying to kill something with 4 or less toughness, and then maybe it's got some big power, you can make sure to sacrifice some food in response, and you get to fight and win that fight. But you had me at a 3/3 that ETB fights, right? Like, I'm just, take away the sacrifice of food clause and just have it be this, and I would be totally in. So I'm just extra in on the fact that we can even make it indestructible. Note that they kind of keep the you have to tap it so that you can't just build up insurmountable, like you can just pile all your food into this and make it a 12/12 and win or something. So it is hungry like the wolf, Nick. Maybe that's a meme here. You gotta give me your meme ideas too. Nick has just proposed hungry like the wolf for Wicked Wolf. I like it. Let's vote on this. Oh yeah, you could. It's instant speed. Sorry, retraction. If you did have 12 food, you could attack and then sacrifice all 12 and totally get them. So then, what is the tap clause even about? I wonder why they make you tap it. Any ideas? Let's see. Maybe it's so that you. I don't know. You really think it's an homage to regeneration? It might just be what Shogmoth is saying, that, If it ETBs and you kill something and do this, you don't get to block with it. But, well, I'm going to... Shut up, Rocket. Hold on. Rocket's here to review some cards with me. Hey, buddy. You all right? That nasty male person gone? Oh, here. Need some scratches. No, you want out? You want out? What do you want? I'm out, Dad. I will not be on your stream. Sorry, no Rocket for you. All right, well, you all may be right that what's going on here is an homage to regeneration, but if so, I don't like it. I would just leave that off. That seems weird. I don't like throwing something like Tap It On for flavor or homage. Just like make a cleaner design with fewer words, I think. Did I vote this? I can't remember. All right, we'll vote on this one then. Wicked Wolf, what do you think? I think it's just a windmill slam first pick. You're going to be taking this first every time and trying to build around it. It's weird when I don't have my headphones on, I feel like I'm extra loud. Like I got to put this on just so I can shut me up a little bit. Ah, much better. Jesus, your voice, Ryan. Come on. All right, now we've got ourselves a Wildborn Preserver. 1 and a green for a creature elf archer at rare. It's a 2/2, so here's a bear. It's got flash, it's got reach, so it's already got upside. Maybe it's got more. It is rare after all. Whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver. Yeah. Wow. So basically, all your spare mana gets to go into making Wildborn Preserver bigger when you cast non-humans. Now, Rocket, we just got over 1 delivery person. Are you serious? Oh, that's the son. I thought it was early for my son to be home, but on Wednesdays they get out an hour early, so that's just my only remaining child at home. Anyway, so let's get back here. Yeah, this seems like I'm excited about this. I mean, we talk about how important it is to spend all your mana. Well, here's a way to spend all your mana. Wow. Archer just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until they kill it. I'm pretty excited about this as a premium 2-drop. And filling in all the nooks and corners of your spell casting with +1 counters for the Preserver seems great. What do you think? I'm not sure how you would exactly rate it, but this is a card I would be excited to first pick and excited to fill out my 2-drop slot with. Four Michelin stars. What's the 4th category, Hat? Value? It's another non-human, so it's not like you can flash and make it a 4/4 or something, but... Oh yeah, it's definitely doing the Simic Flash deck. That's a good call. Yeah, it feels like Flash is a service star hat. Very strong card. Looking forward to opening that one sometime. Wildwood Tracker is next. We have a 1/1 for green. So this is, you know, the beast will fall in love with a Wildwood Tracker if given the chance. Oh, except when, let's see. That's funny. Whenever Wildwood Tracker attacks or blocks, if you control another non-human creature, Wildwood Tracker gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So the beast will happily attack with the tracker, and then mid-combat, the beast is like, huh, you're kind of what do you call a Matisse or whatever. You're like, you don't look as good close up, Wildwood Tracker. I thought you were hot, but I don't know. While we're attacking, you're just not as sexy. I don't know what it is. A Monet, that's what I was going for. Wildwood Tracker is a Monet. Wolf's Quarry. Oh, sorry, I didn't vote. Let's go back and vote. I didn't even talk about, I just kind of mentioned it. Is it even good? I didn't say anything other than I made jokes about it, but didn't rate it. I don't like it. I think the bonus of just getting +1/+1 sometimes is not great. Although if you're in the dedicated, well, maybe it's all right. I guess if you're in the dedicated non-creature deck and you're looking to beat down, non-human, I mean, then it's a 2/2 for 1. But the trouble is, even that's not just that's not amazing and limited at this point. Like you can make out this huge deck with great curve, and you're really working this angle. And it's like, great, you did it. You've got a 2/2. Like it's still just going to get blanked by a lot of stuff. So I think it would be playable in the dedicated non-human aggro deck. But even there, I question whether it's going to be great unless you're really, really got a tight, efficient early curve and tricks that are going to get everything through. You know, it could really be part of a early bum rush type strategy, but I just worry that even with the claws happening regularly, it gets blanked by better creatures pretty quickly. So I'm not going to prioritize it, but I'll pick these up late when I'm already in the non-human aggro green deck, and then maybe they find a spot. But I really have to be thinking of this as a 2/2 attacker. My deck must be reliably producing that result every time. Anyway, here's the poll for it. You have to try again, Buckeye. You beat me to the punch. Sorry. Hat notes that 2 of them see each other. Yep. So if you've piled up 5 of these or something, you are going to get quite the bum rush going. So it's not unplayable. It's almost a build around. Like you really need to be conscious of that you're aggro and that you're just full of non-humans. Wolf's Quarry is the next card. It's 4 green for a sorcery. That's a lot. It says create 3 1/1 green boar creature tokens with when this creature dies, create a food token. I had this in my pool when I was playing green yesterday, and I did not run it because I had no real food synergies and I had no ability to wide pump my team. I think if all you're doing is paying 6 to get 3 1/1s that die into some life gain, it can buy you some time, but it's just not exciting for 6 mana. I want more out of my 6. However, I played against an opponent who had 2 Wolf's Quarries, and they had all sorts of synergies around it. It was a food-based deck. They had the troll that you could sack 3 food to bring it back from the graveyard to the battlefield. They had the uncommon artifact that said choose a color, and creatures of your tap for that color, and creatures of that color get +1/+0. So this was an opponent that was really making the Wolf's Quarry work. So I think there's real homes for it. And I like cards like this because this is not a high priority for anybody not working the build around angles here. I would not worry about this card early, and then if you get into a food deck, a go wide deck, or a pump your green creatures deck, then I'm getting a little more interested in what's going on here. But I'm pretty uninterested unless I'm building around it in a pretty high synergy way. Yeah, the beast is strangely attracted to piglets, but you know, this is a weird world. So you can vote on it, but I think it's definitely in the build around camp. So I don't know what that means to you, but you tell me. Definitely not unplayable. Just have to make sure it's a synergy-based play. But it's pretty easy to see when it's going to be good and when it's not. Yeah, I suppose maybe if you have a Wolf's Quarry deck, maybe you can play that flaxen-haired bear killer or whatever, but I don't like it in the abstract. All right, one more, says Buckeye. Yorvo, Lord of the Garen Brig. What's up, Yorvo? We played against Yorvo yesterday. Really leans into the mono leanings of this set, but let's read it. Did we vote? Did I vote? No, we did vote, yeah. So, hey, thanks, Dogmoth. We'll see you. Green for a 0/0, but it enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. So effectively a 4/4 for 3, which is like a little underrate for a green rare, honestly, because we've seen green get us a 5/4 that can't be blocked by 2-power creatures. So I'm not sure how big the Lord is here. Usually, if there's an object trying to represent scale in a drawing, it's like something obvious and known, like birds or humans. So I'm not sure how tall this guy is in the art, but it is a giant. Yeah, so maybe it's just huge. Yeah, I guess he's huge. Anyway, let's continue reading the card. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. Then, if that creature's power is greater than Yorvo's power, put another +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. So, yeah, the mana cost is a bit oppressive, and it does not have evasion. So it's just, that's a problem. It's very chumpable, very double blockable. But if you're dedicated green, I'm going to play it. I'm just not super excited about like Windmill Slam first picking this and being like, I'm totally green because I got Yorvo. It's like, well, I'm already heavy green. Sure, I'm going to take Yorvo, but I don't know if this is like a priority pick of any kind. That mana cost is super oppressive. We're going to be monocolored sometimes in this format. I don't know how often. That'll be interesting to see how much of our decks end up being true monocolored decks. But I think you're going to be happy to play this in a deck with 11 green sources ish, and lots of green creatures. But it's not going to be amazing, I don't think. It's just because it only gets bigger. It has no evasion, and it can be chumped endlessly. So that has some issues on that front. But it's going to get big, and sometimes big is enough. Absolutely, sometimes just getting big is enough, but it's not always enough. So that's a factor to consider. What's your vote? What do you think? And the final vote has closed. You like a 5? I think I'm somewhere between 4 and 5 on this if you put me to a vote, which looks like where chat is as well. Most on 5, but many on 4. So, yep, feels about right. I'm with you, chat. All right, and we're done with green, so that's going to take us to the end of our stream today. I'm going to see who we can raid here, but I really thank you all for hanging out. I'm going to say goodbye to our YouTube folks right now and say I'm going to keep doing these. There should be another color up tomorrow, and thanks for hanging out, and let me know what you would have voted for differently in the comments or whatever, and we'll see you next time, YouTube. And then I'm going to see if there's a nice raid target. Who shall we raid today? Who's even streaming? I'm like the only person streaming. That's why everybody's here. Oh, no, Gabby's streaming, and she's got a bazillion people watching. Matt Nass is playing, but playing Dota Underworld, so we're not going to go there. I guess Gabby wins. Not going to make much of an impact in Gabby's 4,600 viewers, but we'll go say hello regardless. Nice. Viewer count, Gabby. Yeah, we could do Nassif, but he don't know me. Gabby knows me and raids me sometimes, so, you know. What does he do? Is he drafting? Nah, he's not if Nassif were drafting, I would have changed, but geez, Gabby's not even playing Magic at all. All right, fine. Nassif wins just because at least he's playing Magic. And apparently this is the day nobody wants to play Arena because we're all waiting for Eldraine, which is kind of funny. But my fellow Magic junkies were here with me today because, dang it, we want to draft, right? So thanks for that. Well, Fanatic Guru, nobody wanting to play the day before a new set got me a lot of extra viewers today. And thank you for hanging out. If you're still here, if you normally watch other people, but I was the one around today and you hung out with me, I'm so thankful that you chose to do that. Hopefully you gave me a follow and you'll keep me on your menu of options in the future. And I really appreciate that. So thanks for hanging. And let's send this over to Mr. Yellow Hat himself. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow for first Eldraine play and more set reviewing.